Hello and welcome to Manika IES. Let us start our discussion with respect to daily news analysis. So let's see which topics are we going to cover today. The very first topic is your direct tax collection. This is important for you to understand the relevance of another topic which was provisional GDP estimates. You'll get to know how. Now, the next topic is ICJ, International Court of Justice, Swacchh Survekshan Awards, GM Mustard, and Minority Institution. These five are the topic that we're going to discuss in detail today. So let's start with the very first topic, which is direct tax collection. So why are we seeing this in news? Because the government has recently released figures for the tax collected this year so far and the provisional estimates. So if you see so far, India has collected 14.7 lakh crores, which is 4/5. That is approximately 80% of the budgeted estimates. So what happened in every budget, they deliver an estimate like this is going to be an expected collection of taxes for the next year. So as per the budget estimates, we have already collected 80% of the estimated amount with respect to direct tax collection, and this reflect that there is about 20% growth vis-a-vis the previous year, approximately 20%. So this is important with respect to the trends, because UPSC can ask about the trends in your exam. But before we proceed further, what is direct tax? When we are talking about direct tax, what are direct taxes? Direct taxes are the taxes which a consumer pay directly to the imposing authority. Okay, there is no intermediary. You are responsible to pay it, and it is levied on you as well. So on the oneself, it includes income tax, corporate tax, directly consumer to the authority. So if you see GST is not a direct tax, is an indirect tax. We pay on the product to the seller who is selling us the product, and on our behalf he files the taxes to the uh, government. So this is a difference between a direct tax and an indirect tax. So let's see the the figures for this year. So what it is saying is gross direct collection is 17.18 lakh crores, which is showing 16.77% growth. Net direct tax collection after refunds is 14.70 lakh. So the figure is not important for you to remember. One thing is very sure, that आप लोगों को ये figure remember नहीं करना है. What you need to remember is what are direct taxes, क्या किसको बोलते हैं, ट्रेंड क्या चल रहा है, पिछले साल से बढ़ा है या घटा है. That's important for you. The third thing which is important for you to remember, if you recall, in on day before yesterday we had a discussion with respect to GDP numbers, in which we discussed कि as the estimates are showing up, the NSO release estimate, and it was showing that GDP is expected to grow with respect to the previous year. However, GVA is not expected to grow. Instead, it is going to be less from the previous year. And that day we discussed that this can possibly due to increase in taxes, because GVA is equal to GDP plus subsidies minus taxes. So this is the formula. So we discussed that day that if it might have been the case that taxes have increased, which has resulted in increase of GDP rather than the actual economy itself. So that's why this is important for you to correlate. If you can correlate these two things together, it will be very helpful for your understanding. And these are the kind of questions that UPSC asks. Like, if this happened, this, then what is going to be the impact? So these are the questions that UPSC kind of asks, and also the question related to trends. So remember such thing. These are conceptual things. Now again, this is the data which is being given. So the highlight is that ITR filings have record ITR filings have been filed, and it has been more than 8 crores. So the largest number of ITR have been filed. 8 crore ITRs have been filed. So this is important Further, the personal income tax has seen a rise of 26%, and corporate income tax has seen a relatively less rise of 8.32%. So these two are important facts. 80% has already been met. So by the end of March, we'll be able to see what is going to be the figures. So this is important. These are the important numbers, but you need not remember the numbers itself. You remember the trend. That is important from your prelims point of view. Now let's see the next topic, which is your International Court of Justice. So why we are seeing in the news? See, it is also something that we discussed on the 11th. We discussed that it is South Africa which has taken the matter of Israel uh, to the ICJ. So there we discussed that South Africa has taken the matter of Israel attack in the Palestinian to the ICJ, and when we were talking about international law, and in that particular area we discussed. So relate that particular article with this particular article, add the points in your notes together. That will be helpful in your mains answer writing. So today we'll discuss some concepts and some facts also with respect to which will be helpful in your prelims as well as your mains. So this topic is relevant specifically for GS paper 2, international relations. Okay. So this is the relevance. And now what South Africa is saying? South Africa is saying that Palestinian attack, जो presently which is going on with respect to the Hamas attack as a retaliation, Israel attacked the Palestinian territory as well, and this has led to a death of approximately 23,200 Palestinians in Gaza. So it is saying the attacks which are going in Gaza Strip is not one day event; they are accumulated events, and so much Palestinians have lost their life, according to the health ministry in Hamas-run enclave, that is in Gaza Strip. If you talk about Gaza Strip, their health ministry has said that more than 23,000 people have died. So that is why South Africa has taken the matter to the ICJ. Now, what is Israel's stand on it? Now, Israel is saying that they are denying that it is something which has led to genocide because they have complained of genocide. It is saying that they have denied all the allegations. Plus, ICJ has said to halt the attacks, which Israel is unlikely to follow, is what article is saying. Okay. Now, with respect to this, we have two things to understand. One is what is genocide, and second about ICJ. Let's look into both the matters. Now, what is genocide? Genocide is basically defined under Article 2 of Convention on Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide. Okay, it was in 1942 it came into existence, and in force it came into 1951. Now, how does it define? Let's look at the technical definition which is given. Just give me a second. Yeah. So it says acts that are committed with the intent to destroy in whole or partly a national, ethnic, racial, religious group. And these acts can be including killing members of the group, causing serious bodily mental harm, deliberately inflicting on the group condition of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures to prevent birth within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. So basically, see, understand the genesis of the term genocide. Genocide specifically means genes. If you are going to, destroy the entire germline of a particular, say, caste or a particular ethnic nationality or a racial being, now that is something which is referred to as genocide. And it has categorically mentioned, like, if you are killing the members, if you are causing some bodily or mental harm to the people of a particular group, and deliberately inflicting conditions in which the physical destruction happens, then imposing measures so that they prevent the birth. Like, if you see in India, uh, the government is asking Jews to, there are program running where they are promoting Jews to have babies, because the population of that particular community in India is declining. So that is why such, if you are trying to control the population so that the entire, the uh, group wiped out, so that is another form of genocide. Then forcibly transferring children to the group to another group. Now, what is India's stand on this prevention genocide? See, it's India, although has signed the convention, however, no specific law with respect to genocide is there in India. So the government is saying that it is covered under IPC. They are covering under IPC, so they do not need a specific law. But as of now, there is no specific law with respect to genocide in India. Okay, so now let's see about, and always remember this definition of genocide. It will be very helpful for you if there is a question with respect to this in mains exam. So do remember this and quote the convention. You will possibly get a half or 1 mark extra due to this. Now, if you see, let's discuss about International Court of Justice. Now, International Court of Justice is a judicial organ of the United Nations and it's one of its principal organ. Okay. So it is located in Hague, Netherlands. So, what is the mandate? Now, this is the factual information. Now, what is the mandate? Mandate is it settles dispute between state and give advisory opinions on legal question, which are referred to it by UNGA and UNSC or other states. So, basically, it settle dispute between the states or it give advisory opinion. So, these are two type of jurisdiction which lies with the ICJ. Okay. Now, it is different from ICC, which is International Criminal Court, which held which deals with the criminal charges of the people who are responsible for genocide and other sort of criminal activity. So that is a different court. This is a different court. It basically settles dispute between the parties. It doesn't deal with individual disputes, whereas ICC deals with individual criminal cases. Okay, so these are the two different things, and it is the principal organ of UN, while it is not a principal organ of UN. Now, if you see the composition, so ICJ essentially is composed of 15 judges, okay, so which have elected by UNGA and UNSC, that is UN General Assembly, as well as UNSC, and with a term of 9 years. And these judges can be re-elected. You can re-elect them, but only for 1 year. Okay. Now, how do you decide? Like, these 15 judges, where they'll be from. So this is it. Three are from Africa, two from Latin America and Caribbean, three from Asia, five from Western Europe and other states, two from Eastern Europe. Now, there are also issues with respect to these 15 judges, like how they have divided the number of judges from a particular area. If you see, there is no one from US, and second, if you see population wise, three from Asia. However, from Europe you have seven in total. In totality, you have seven. So this is again a bone of contention which has always been raised. However, this is how it is today. Okay. Now let's see the jurisdiction. So ICJ, as we discussed, had two contentious cases: dispute between state, advisory proceeding, with respect to the questions forward to it by the organs of UN or the states. Okay, UNGA, UNSC, or any other party who is asking for advisory opinion. Now, if you talk about their enforcement mechanism, so the judgment given on these cases which are related to dispute, they are binding. However, with respect to the advisory proceedings, they are not binding opinion. They are, you can just refer to it with respect to international cases. However, the opinions of the court are not binding. These are not binding, these are binding. Okay. Now, the thing is, on that day also we discussed, although we have courts, international courts, but they do not have enforcement mechanism. Say for example, UN gave a decision, okay fine, this has to be halted, as we discussed in Israel. Now, who is going to enforce it? There is nobody to enforce. What can you do about it? Similarly, if you see in South China Sea, ICJ gave a judgment which was not going in favor of China. So China opted not to follow that judgment. And the other thing is, it is UN Security Council that can take some measures to enforce the court's ruling. But what about the things like China? China itself is a member of UNSC. So how do you expect it to, go against itself when it's sitting in UNSC, that's simply a joke. It's not going to help. So that's why we say that it is like, however, it took it to in the direction where everybody is willing to work, but not everyone work in that respect. So there's a clear lack of UN enforcement mechanism with respect to the rulings, and that's why the changes with respect to UNSC and UNGA are expecting from a longer time, but there are still not any changes, and this can be a potential question of you for your mains examination that can be asked with respect to changes in UNSC, because India is demanding these changes. It wants more inclusion of more states who are like India. We have largest population in the world, and why we are not part of it? So it is considered as non-democratic because it is not rightly representing the number of population vis-a-vis the number of countries. So that's why it's a contentious issue. Now let's see the next topic, which is your Swacch Survekshan Awards. Now released by Union Ministry of Urban Affairs, they rank basis on the basis of cleanliness. This you can quote with respect to your question in GS paper 2, social issues, and paper 1, society. There also can be a standalone question with respect to this. However, if not, you can definitely quote this data in these particular questions as well as in your essay paper wherever it is required. So remember these, and further the basic factual information can also be asked in your preliminary examination. So this was the relevance. Now if you see the theme for 2023 was waste to wealth, and theme for 2024 will be reduce, reuse and recycle. Remember, this can be asked in your preliminary exam. Okay, this is important point with respect to preliminary exam. Now also, our President Draupadi Murmu has launched Swacch Survekshan 2023 dashboard. With launch of this year awards, it has also released Swacch Survekshan 2023 dashboard. Okay, not that important for you to remember, but still you should know. Now, the Swacch Survekshan started with 73 cities in 2016. So it started in 2016 with 73 cities, and at present it has 4,477 cities. So it covered approximately 4,500 cities. So this was some factual information, and this year it is Indore and Surat who have combined shared rank 1, and Indore for the seventh time in a row has become the cleanest city in the country. Now let's see about the results. As we discussed, cleanest city being Surat and Indore. Now, if you see the state rankings, Maharashtra has topped the ranking, followed by Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Now, if you see cities with the population of more than 1 lakh, Navi Mumbai top, followed by Greater Visakhapatnam, Bhopal, Vijayawada, and New Delhi. Now, this is surprising for me. I was shocked and surprised to see New Delhi in top 5 clean city because I stay in Delhi, and if this is clean, I presumably, I'm not surprised of the kind of cleanliness that we are expecting in the top 5 cities. Berhal can't do anything. I hope they are more cleaner than this, but yeah. Now cities with population less than 1 lakh, Saswat and Lonavala in Maharashtra. So if you see, it's by and large the area of Maharashtra which is more clean, apart from some states like Gujarat, in Surat in Gujarat and Indore in Madhya Pradesh. These are the things that you need not remember, but remember these rankings. They will be more. They are more important. However, Ganga towns के अंदर if you see, Varanasi and Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh won the top 2 awards for cleanest Ganga towns. So this was it. You need to remember these three majorly. These three are less likely to be asked. Now, let's see about and discuss about GM mustard. So, why? First of all, it context why it is in news. Always whenever you are dealing with any news, you should know the reason behind it was in news, and when what is the issue, okay, what is the issue, like when there is any sort of discussion which is going on, what is the particular issue behind that. This is how you structure even your answers, and if you're following that structure in your answer, it will be helpful, and also it will help you in deeper understanding of the content if you are reading in this particular direction. Now you should know the basic terminologies or the words which are being used. So if we are saying GM mustard was seen in news, तो what is GM mustard basically क्या होता है, ठीक है. Now another body was in news, GAEC, with respect to GM mustard. तो अब इसके बारे में भी read thoda bahut about it. Now as a aspirant is it becomes difficult because you have to read your static subjects, do your classes, read newspapers. So that's where the role of videos and the current material comes in. It's our job to provide you with this type of content, so you have to do less R&D. So we'll do R&D and you study, but do know that the context behind it. This will help you in building a chain of thoughts and also writing good answers with respect to mains and developing good answerability skills with respect to prelims as well. Okay, so let's see. Now, Supreme Court has questioned the government on whether the GAEC has considered the reports of the court-appointed technical expert committee on biosafety of transgenic mustard hybrid DMH11 before approving it from environmental release. Now, what has happened is Supreme Court has had appointed a technical experts committee, ठीक है, which was supposed to study on the biosafety of your GM mustard. Okay. Now, the Supreme Court is asking the government whether GAEC has referred to this report before allowing the environmental release of GM mustard. Okay. Now, what is GAEC? GAEC is a statutory body under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It is a statutory body, so it has to come by a law. And now, which law is it? It is Environment Protection Act 1986. So it is a statutory body under this act and under Ministry of Environment. Okay. And what is the regulatory framework? It follows the rules of manufacture, use, import, export, and storage of hazardous microorganisms, genetically engineered organisms, or cell 1989, which are also under EPA. ठीक है. सो ईपीए के इन रूल्स के अंदर आती है GAEC. ठीक है. नाउ इसका मैंडेट क्या है? Mandate, it is responsible for evaluating safety and environmental impact. Basically, it will study the impact of any sort of GM organisms, genetically modified organisms. What are genetically modified organisms? That is a big, itself is a big topic, but I'll try to explain you in brief. Say, for example, this is your DNA or any sort of genetic material, can be RNA in such or some organisms. And if you say, for example, remove this set of your genes or substituted it with some other, or did any sort of engineering alteration, any sort of alteration in genetic material. If you do any sort of changes in the alteration material, in genetic material, it can be addition, it can be you can delete something, you can substitute something, you can add something, you can change the placement of some genes. If you are doing any of these techniques to the genetic material of any organism, now that particular organism which is made out after the alteration is referred to as genetically modified organism. And the agenda, the aim, the mandate of this GAEC is to study the overall impact of that particular, its safety of that particular GMO. Now that's the mandate. Who is going to be the chairperson? The chairperson is going to be the special secretary or additional secretary of MOEFs, that is Ministry of Environment, and it is co-chaired by representative from Department of Biotechnology. Why biotechnology? Because the science which is involved in this is biotechnology. This entire mechanism is known as biotech. That is why representative from the Department of Biotechnology. Now, if you see functions and responsibilities, ठीक है, as we said, evaluation of GMO before release of genetically modified organism into the environment. Okay, then it also review the proposal, say for the environmental release of GMO, including genetically modified crops. ठीक है, say if government is sending them proposal to release, and they advise now the government whether they can release or not. Say for example, there's this Pusa Institute which is there. It has made some sort of genetically modified crop. Now, if that particular institute send some proposal to the GAEC to study whether this is viable or not, if they say it is viable, then they send the report to Ministry of Environment, and they recommend the approvals, they grant approval by recommending the Ministry of Environment whether you can actually release or not. Okay, so they recommend the ministry. Now, monitoring and compliance, if you have released, later on also monitoring whether it is like doing right or there's some sort of impacts of it is which is going on, that is also the job of MOEC. So from beginning till the end, it is the responsibility of GAEC to see whether GMO are fine or not. Okay. Now public consultation. Sometimes they also if keep things in public domain for them to, and public domain doesn't only mean overall public but the stakeholder. Like it can be scientist, it can be farmer, it can be some sort of anthropologist who are involved, or agriculture scientist who can better tell whether you should release or not. So these are the kind of people that can be asked, and this sort of consultation is being consulted by GAEC. Okay, now let's see about the basics of GM mustard. So what is GM mustard? See, GM mustard also known as Dhara mustard hybrid 11. That is why DMH 11. ठीक है? It was developed by Center for Genetic Manipulation of Crop Plants at Delhi University. DU ने बनाई है. ठीक है? 2016 में GAEC ने इसको अप्रूव किया था, but it faced various opposition and it was then halted, and that's why the court case is going on. Okay. Now, what was the purpose of GM mustard? What was the agenda behind developing GM mustard? It was to increase mustard yields and reduce dependency on edible oil imports. If you remember, we were discussing with respect to palm oil that India is the largest importer. If you are going to increase yield of the mustard, without utilizing more land into it, that will give you more mustard oil. So dependency on imports will decrease. Okay. So if you, what are the benefits? The people who are supporting GM mustard are saying that it will enhance yield, as we discussed, self-sufficient, reduce dependency, and it was also engineered to resist pest and herbicide. So it will make cultivation more efficient. So this is the talk of the proponents. However, what are the concerns? Now the concerns are environmental impact. It can infect non-target organisms, soil health, and biodiversity is what is being claimed. However, there is no research which is supporting this or supporting this. These are the claims. Now, it also said the farmer dependency on seed companies. Now, this is a big issue. Normally, क्या होता है? When a farmer grow a crop, they save the seeds of that crop and use those seeds again to, grow another set of crops. However, with respect to GM mustard, the seeds cannot be reused. Once you have grown a particular, you buy a seed from the market, you grow, and next year, if you want to sow the seeds again, you have to purchase it. There are two issues with respect to this. One, there are only few companies who are developing GM crops, not with respect to mustard itself. Mustard was created in DU, but otherwise as well. And In some, there are also availability of terminator seeds. What happened with terminator genes? Sorry, terminator genes, if they are present, you cannot use the seed again. This is a bigger problem, and it will impact the economic condition of your farmers as well. So these two are the big issues as well. That first, you cannot reuse the seeds. It will impact the economic health of farmer as well. So other concern can include human health concerns because there are no evidences to show that it is safe for humans. Then lack of long-term studies, as we discussed, and ethical issues. So this was about your GM mustard and your GAAC. Now, let's discuss the last topic of the day, which is your minority institution. Now, why minority institutions were seen in news? So, Supreme Court was listening to a plea which was actually wanting minority status for Aligarh Muslim University. Now, in that particular uh, hearing, it has made some sort of observation. What are those observations? It says that the right given to religious and linguistic minorities to establish and administer their educational institutions under Article 30, Clause 1 of the Constitution was not intended to segregate them. That one observation is, so Article 30 is giving rights to your linguistic and religious minority that they can have their educational institution. Now this is the agenda of this is to support them, not to segregate them. This is one observation. Second, it said ki if you know if the founders of that particular organization choose to enrope some of the non majority people or the people who are not belonging to the same minority into that particular institution, it doesn't take away the entire character of a minority institution from that particular organization. It will still be a minority institution. You can definitely have people who are working from majority, who are working in the minority institution, so it will not change the character. This was the second observation. Second, it said that Article 30 does not mandate that administration of minority educational institution should only be by members of the community. It is flowing from this. This was the observation which was made by CJI. And if you face any question, you can definitely quote our CJI DY Chandrachud in your answers. This will improve the quality of your answers. And it says that choosing the members who will be working is the discretionary power of the founders of the institution. So this was the observation. Now, who are minorities in India? So it was in 2004 for the very first time that the government notified five minority on the basis of both religion and linguistic. These are Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist, and Parsis. In 2014, Jainism was also added to the list. So today we have six minorities: Jainism, Buddhism, Muslim, Parsis, and Sikhs, and Christians. These are the six minority which are present today in India. Now let's see the next point. We'll discuss Article 30. Now, Article 30 kya hai? We'll try to solve what we have discussed so far. Article 30 allows these minority that we discussed to establish, administer educational institution of their choice. Okay, you can establish and you can administer. Second, it says that compensation amount for compulsory acquisition of property of an education institution established and administered by a minority should not restrict or abrogate the right guaranteed under the. Now it says, now what does this mean? This mean that if you are providing compensation amount, first if you are acquiring property of these institutions, you should you should provide a compensation amount. However, this should not impact their right to establish and administer. Okay. Now, third thing is you cannot the government. It is binding upon the government that they cannot discriminate against any educational institution set up by the minority. Okay, so there are three things. If we'll reiterate again, You can the minorities can establish an administration education institution of their choice, and as per the Supreme Court of India, if even if they are enroping majority members, the members from the majority community for their working, it will still not change the nature of the minority institution. Second, it says that they have a right for fair compensation in case of acquiring, and it should not impact their right to set up their own institution. Third, it is saying that the state cannot, in any scenario, discriminate against the education institution set up by the minority organizations, minority community. Okay, so there are three type of minority education institution. Three times. Okay, one are the institutions which have received recognition for the government as well as the fund. Then there are second, which have received recognition but not funds. ठीक है. However, institution that neither seek recognition nor aid. In case the institution which is falling in these two particular category, ठीक है, they are subject to regulatory power of the state regarding syllabus prescription, academic standards, employment norms, discipline, etc. However, the institution which are neither seeking recognition nor aid are independent of any sort of regulatory power of state. Okay, but general law they have to follow, so this is bare minimum which is to be followed by everyone. So three institution, three kind of minority institution. One, this is important, this is very important point with respect to a preliminary exam. There are three type of institution under this article. One, minority institution of first kind which are seeking recognition from the state as well as aid from the state. Second, who are seeking recognition but not aid. Then third, who are neither seeking recognition nor they are seeking aid. So the first two type, that means the one who are seeking either recognition or aid, they are subject to regulatory power of the state. They have to follow the norms with respect to education, discipline, whatever the government provide. They are subject to those regulations. However, they are the third type, which is neither seeking recognition nor seeking any sort of funds, are independent of the regulations of the state. However, they are also subject to general law of the land, but not specific regulation. So this was it about today's current affairs. If you have any sort of question, you may please ask in the comment section below. And if you have any you want to have the PDF, you can follow the Telegram channel. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you.